So after Kevin O'Leary went on Fox News to accuse us of being operatives for the Chinese government, we did not back down on the data center. In fact, we actually dug in more. So today's Fresh Hill is that Utah Speaker of the House Mike Schultz owns 600 acres near the Stratos project site. As one normally does, we were scrolling around looking at the parcels of land that are right around the proposed data center. And wouldn't you know it, we happened upon a little parcel of land with the owner name being labeled as Mike Schultz Inc. And it doesn't take an investigative journalist to find that it is in fact owned by the Utah Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz. And these two combined parcels of land total up to about 640 acres. And that 640 acres is just about 3 miles away from the Stratos project site, right next to the freeway interchange. Huh, that's coincidence.
So like any normal person does, you go to the Box Elder County Recorder's office and you pay $1.50 and you can get the deed for that land. And wouldn't you know it, but this piece of property, Mike Schultz bought on January 3rd of 2025. And then to put the cherry on top, all of this land he bought for, quote, $10 and other good and valuable consideration. Apparently, this is like a legal term, the $10 and other good and valuable consideration that people use because in Utah, you don't have to disclose how much you bought this property for. So people put $10 because it satisfies what is legally required without having to disclose exactly what they paid for it, if anything. We are not saying that Speaker of the House Mike Schultz bought this because he knew that there was a data center project coming. In a recent interview, he said that he only found out about this project in April with everyone else. But what we are saying is it is a pretty big coincidence that he owns this much land right next to this data site that he bought last January. He calls himself a farmer and a rancher. But what you might not know is that before he was a farmer and a rancher, he was a developer. Mike Schultz is also a millionaire, and his most recent conflict of interest disclosures list 25 business entities. All of those ranging from hotels in Hawaii to real estate to apartment buildings to his private plane. So Mike Schultz does own some farming and ranching land near Hooper. Said correctly. We're not Chinese operatives. But his businesses operate from Davis to Box Elder County. And for a man who has 30 years of development experience, he might be exactly the right person to look at 640 acres of land right near a project like this and know exactly how much that land is going to appreciate in the next few years.
So after learning all of this, we decided to look at some other places around the country where they have built data centers and what the land value around the data centers have grown to. So according to Land App, land value around data centers has increased between 2 and 4 times its agricultural value. And an organization called CBRE has said that the land around the data center in Loudoun County, Virginia has increased 16 times compared to the next property value. There are developers that are offering people $4.4 million an acre around other data centers in the United States. Now, we know that Box Elder County is different from Loudoun County, Virginia, or any of these other places, and we are not saying, again, that Mike Schultz bought this property because he knew about this thing that was happening and he knew how much the property value would increase, and he happens to own all of these development companies and construction companies. But these questions have not been asked on the public record. We are not in a position to answer those questions, but we encourage other people to try and get answers to those questions.
Now, Mike Schultz is not the only Utah legislator that happens to own property very close to the Stratos data center project. Senator Scott Sandel also owns a large amount of land about 3 to 4 miles away from the project. Now, Sandel said on the record that he hasn't been approached about selling his land yet, but he might sell it for the right price. And Senator Sandel just happens to be the same Senator Sandel that sponsored SB 132 during the 2025 legislative session. This was the bill that made this Stratos data center possible. What are the chances? All state legislators have to fill out a conflict of interest form every single year, but Mike Schultz Inc. he lists as a holding company. Now, by Utah law, he is not required to say what that holding company owns. There is an optional section of the conflict of interest form, item 6A, where they have the option to disclose if they have investments that might lead to a conflict of interest. Mike Schultz has left this section blank on every single one of his conflict of interest disclosures. Under Utah law, which Mike Schultz and Senator Scott Sandel have helped to create, all of this is completely legal. Ethical?
So if Kevin O'Leary can go on national Fox News and accuse us of being Chinese operatives and ask to audit our books, I think that we should propose some audits of our own. Maybe the timing of all of the meetings that Kevin O'Leary had with state leaders, there are contradicting reports, an audit of the deed and the $10 that Mike Schultz spent, plus his other good and valuable considerations to buy these 2 parcels of land. To be auditing the holding companies and disclosure forms laws around our Utah legislators. Maybe we should audit the people who stand to benefit from a project like this and how much their messaging has changed given the public pushback. Because this is a continued pattern that we see in Utah where people in power and people with money are continuing to get more power and more money off the backs of everyday Utahns and destroying our environment while they're at it. If you want to see the full documentation or a beautiful interactive map that Jackie made on Google Maps of where all these parcels of land exist, you can go to our Substack, go to elevateutah.news, and you can see that. And if you once again would like to buy a hat to tell Kevin O'Leary that he is an idiot and his hat sucks, you can buy one of our hats that says Utah Nature Security, and that link is in our bio. We're gonna have to cut off the orders at some point because we have gotten so many. So thank you all for your support. We know there's so much information about this data center going around, but please try and stay updated. We will continue to update you as things come out, and we, yes, are continuing to still dig into all of this.